Okay, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack something truly fascinating today, and that's the exact psychological principles behind viewer retention. Seriously, if you've ever wondered why certain pieces of content just glue you to the screen while others lose you in like 5 seconds, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to deconstruct 3 ready-to-use scripts from our source material. We'll look at the actual science they present, sure, but more importantly, we're going to dissect the underlying structure that makes them so incredibly captivating. Think of it as breaking down the literal anatomy of attention.
But first, get this. Our entire journey today actually hinges on a hilarious typo from the source material. So the author was tasked with writing a script for a psychologist, someone who deals with mental health, brain function, clinical practice, the whole shebang. But they realized that if you miss just one single letter, you get a phycologist, and that is a scientist who studies algae and marine microflora. It's a fantastic, playful pattern interrupt, and it perfectly sets up our exploration today, because we're going to look at both the human brain and marine slime and see how the exact same rules of retention apply to both.
So here's our game plan. First, the psychology of retention. Second, stopping 2 a.m. overthinking. Third, crafting the professional intro. And finally, number 4, the psychology pivot.
Starting right off with Section 1, the psychology of retention.
Before we can tear apart these specific scripts, we really need to understand the foundational rules of audience attention that make them work in the first place. According to our source material, if you're structuring content, it all boils down to a pretty simple equation. High retention equals actionable mechanisms plus validating experiences. Here's how it works. When you validate what a viewer is feeling, they feel seen. When you give them an actionable mechanism, like a very specific tool they can use right away, they feel empowered. Throw in a few well-placed pattern interrupts to break up the expected rhythm, and people literally will not stop watching. Keep this exact formula in the back of your mind as we dive into our first script.
Moving on to Section 2, stopping 2 a.m. overthinking.
Okay, to grab attention on fast-paced platforms like TikTok or Shorts, you need a seriously brilliant hook for a 60-second script. Just listen to this one. Ever notice how your brain decides to replay an embarrassing moment from 2018 the exact second your head hits the pillow? Wow. I mean, we've all been there, right? It works so well because it immediately grabs your attention by validating a highly specific, yet almost universally shared feeling of self-sabotage. It essentially says, hey, I know exactly what you're experiencing right now. You're instantly hooked because you feel completely understood.
And the script pivots perfectly to explain the why. It tells the viewer that this late-night overthinking, it isn't just you sabotaging yourself, it's actually an evolutionary glitch. Notice the contrast they use here. During the day, your prefrontal cortex is busy handling all your real-world tasks. It's fully occupied. But at night, when the noise finally stops, your brain's default mode network kicks in. Without all those daytime distractions, your amygdala, which is basically your brain's alarm system, interprets the quiet time as vulnerability. So what does it do? It freaks out a little and starts scanning the environment for potential threats, leading to that totally racing mind.
Now, the script solves this problem by introducing a really cool concept, cognitive offloading. And remember that retention formula? This is our actionable mechanism. Cognitive offloading is just the act of dumping every single thought onto paper. Your to-do lists, your worries, random ideas, whatever. By doing this, you're sending the physical signal to your brain that the information is safely stored somewhere else. You just don't need to hold on to it anymore. And that allows your nervous system to finally disarm.
This builds right into a super actionable 30-second trick you can literally use tonight. Step 1, keep a notebook by your bed. Step 2, before closing your eyes, spend just 2 minutes dumping all your thoughts out onto the paper. Step 3, actually feel your nervous system disarm and notice how much faster your mind settles down. The script then closes with a clear call to action to save the content for bedtime. It is just the perfect loop of validation, education, and actionable resolution.
Let's shift gears a bit for Section 3, crafting the professional intro.
So, if we're crafting a script for a therapist's website directory, the whole vibe and pacing has to slow down. The script opens with this really warm introduction, letting the viewer know they don't have to navigate their heavy load alone. Then it uses a deeply powerful validation technique. It says, many of the clients I work with are high achievers who look like they have everything together on the outside, but internally feel exhausted by anxiety, burnout, or major life transitions. That language, it's incredibly strategic. It connects on a deep level with a specific target audience, those high achievers who are struggling silently. It strips away the stigma and instantly creates a very safe, validating environment.
And once that safe space is established, the script transitions smoothly from validating that emotional weight to offering practical, collaborative tools. It outlines a grounded, evidence-based approach. The therapist promises that they aren't just going to sit around and talk about the problem. They're going to work together to give the client practical tools to regain control.
This might include methods like CBT, mindfulness, or trauma-informed care. Now the viewer knows exactly what to expect from the process.
Finally, every great script needs a clear destination, right? The professional intro ends by acknowledging a very real hurdle. Taking that first step toward therapy can feel really intimidating, but it reassures the viewer that finding the right fit makes all the difference. And then, the clear call to action. Reach out today for a brief consultation. It's a gentle, zero-pressure invitation to just chat about where they want to go next. It's highly effective and just beautifully structured.
All right, bringing the energy back up for Section 4, the Phycology Pivot.
Remember that typo we talked about at the very beginning? Well, here is a bonus script for actual psychologists studying algae. Listen to this. What if I told you the most important organism on Earth isn't trees, it's slime? Come on. That acts as the absolute ultimate pattern interrupt. If you're scrolling on your phone and you hear that, your brain immediately hits the brakes. Wait, slime? Slime is more important than trees? No way. It totally shatters your preconceived notions and instantly captures your curiosity about something you probably never, ever think about.
Once the script has your full attention with that massive pattern interrupt, it hits you with a startling scientific fact. As a phycologist studying microalgae and seaweed, the speaker reveals that these tiny organisms, this literal slime, generate over 50% of the world's oxygen. Let that sink in. They literally form the entire foundation of ocean life. It's a massive paradigm shift, and it's delivered in just a few seconds of script. From there, the script summarizes some of the cutting-edge research happening right now. These invisible green powerhouses aren't just pumping out our oxygen. Scientists are actually studying how specialized microalgae strains can soak up industrial carbon emissions. And even more incredible, they can be converted into sustainable biofuel. The script wraps up by encouraging the viewer to follow along and explore how these organisms are quite literally keeping our planet alive. It's fascinating science, perfectly packaged for high retention. So what does this all mean? That brings us to the end of our structural breakdown today. We've seen how to use cognitive offloading to fix an evolutionary glitch. We've seen how warm, validating language can comfort an exhausted high achiever. And we've seen how a crazy pattern interrupt about slime can teach us about sustainable biofuel. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Whether you are talking to a patient, pitching a client, or explaining a complex topic, ask yourself, are you building content that validates the listener's experience, educates them with actionable mechanisms, and interrupts their expected patterns? Master those 3 elements, and I promise you, they will never stop listening. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.